This video is designed to go over the concept of elapsed time. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at different time segments, and then we're going to see how much time elapsed between, for example, even the first problem here, 5 a.m. to 7:17 a.m. And what I like to do, I like to set up a number line or kind of like a timeline that I have right there in front of you, and this is the best way to do it. Okay, so what I do is I start with my initial time, so I start with 5 o'clock, okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make intervals and get to all the way to 7:17 a.m. Okay, so what I can do, I know from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock, that represents 1 hour. 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, okay, that's another hour. And then 7 o'clock to 7:17, that's 17 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my 1 hour plus 1 hour. Okay, I know that's going to give me 2 hours. And then any minutes that I have left over I will add together. Now for this one I just have 17 minutes. So I have 2 hours, 17 minutes. So I'm looking at from 5 a.m. to 17 a.m. is the elapsed time of 2 hours and 17 minutes. Okay, so here's another problem. This one's a little bit more difficult than the previous one. So we're trying to figure out the elapsed time from 11:15 a.m. you can see here all the way to 1:50 p.m. Okay, so once again I'm going to set up a timeline just like I have right in front of you. I'm going to start out with my initial time, which is 11:15. Okay, and I'll have hour intervals all the way up until my final time, which is 1:50. Okay, so I go from 11:15 to 12 o'clock. I know that is 45 minutes. I'll write that down. 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, I know that is 1 hour. And then finally 1 o'clock all the way to 1:50, that is 50 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, first of all I would add my minutes together, 45 minutes and 50 minutes. Okay, so I know 45 minutes and 50 minutes. Adding those two together, that's going to give me 95 minutes. Now we need to convert the 95 minutes into hours if we can. So anything that's 60 minutes or more, as you know, that equals an hour or over an hour. So what I will do, I will just subtract 60 because that represents the hour. So I have 35 minutes. Alright, so I have 35 minutes left over after the 60. Okay, so that is actually 45 minutes plus 50 minutes is 1 hour, 35 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 1 hour and 35 minutes, and I cannot forget my hour, which is right up here, that's elapsed. Okay, so I'll take 1 hour and add that to 1 hour, 35 minutes. Okay, and that's going to equal 2 hours, 35 minutes. So as you can see, it's important to add your minutes together. If you have a number like I have, 95, which is 60 minutes or over, you're going to have to convert that to hours and minutes. So 45 plus 50 equals 1 hour, 35 minutes. I add that to my hour that I already have. So I can say from 11:15 a.m. to 1:50 p.m. that the elapsed time is 2 hours, 35 minutes. So here's an example of another one, 2:20 p.m. to 4:18 p.m. This one's kind of like the one we just had, 2:20 to 3 o'clock. I know that equals 40 minutes. 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, pretty simple, that's 1 hour. 4 o'clock to 4:18, that's 18 minutes. So my first step, as far as what I want to do, I want to add my minutes together. I have 40 and 18. I'm going to add that together, pretty simple there. 40 plus 18 equals 58. So that's how many minutes I'm dealing with my elapsed time. I don't have to subtract 60 from this because it is less than 60. Okay, so I have my 58 minutes that have elapsed. I can't forget my hour. So I could say that from 2:20 p.m. to 4:18 p.m., that would be 1 hour and 58 minutes of elapsed time. Okay, so here's another problem. We're going from 10:06 a.m. all the way to 2:54 p.m. Okay, so I'm going to set up my timeline just like I have right here. I'm going from 10:06, and from there I'm going to have hour intervals all the way to 2:54. So 10:06 to 11 o'clock, the elapsed time there is 54 minutes. 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, that's 1 hour. 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, that's another hour. 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, that is another hour. And then 2 o'clock to 2:54, pretty simple there. That would be another 54 minutes. Okay, now that I have all of my intervals set and ready to go and figured out, I'm going to add my minutes together, 54 and 54. Figure out what that means in hours and minutes. So 54 and 54 is 108. 108 total minutes. Oops, 108 total minutes. I'm going to subtract 60 from that. So I have 48 minutes left over. So we could say that 54 minutes plus 54 minutes is 1 hour, 48 minutes. And what I will do, I will just add my other hour intervals to this. So I have 1 hour, that's my second hour, that's my third hour. So I will add 3 hours to this. To my 48 minutes. I can just bring down my 48. 1 and 3 is pretty simple. That gives us 4. Okay, so I could say from 10:06 a.m. to 2:54 p.m. that equals a total of 4 hours and 48 minutes of elapsed time. Okay, we're going to take a look at one last problem like this. Now we have 1:25 p.m. to 3:16 p.m. So we'll set up a timeline just like this, 1:25 to 2 o'clock, that's 35 minutes. 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, that's 1 hour. 3 o'clock to 3:16, that's 16 minutes. Now that I've figured out all my intervals, I'm going to begin by adding my minutes together, 16 minutes and 35 minutes. 16 and 35. That gives me 51 minutes. Now, because that is less than 60 minutes, I don't have to convert it to hours and minutes. So I'll just take my minutes, which is 51, add it to my hour. That gives me a total of 1 hour, 51 minutes. And that's the elapsed time from 1:25 p.m. to 3:16 p.m. Okay, now we're going to take a look at a problem like this. What they have given us is a start time, which is 6:12 p.m. They've already given us the elapsed time, which is 4 hours. We just need to figure out the end time. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll set up a line like this, and I'll just fill in 6:12. Okay, and if I want to add 4 hours to this, we could just simply add 4 hours to the 6:12, but it may not always be that easy. So what I could do, I could just do an interval that's 1 hour. That brings me to 7:12. Another hour. That brings me to 8:12. Another hour. That brings me to 9:12. And then finally, my final hour, my 4th hour of elapsed time, brings me to 10:12. It's important to write PM or AM. This will still be PM. Okay, so if I start at 6:12 p.m. and the elapsed time is 4 hours, the end time will be 10:12 p.m. for my end time. Okay, now we're going to take a look at one that's a little bit trickier. What they have done, they have given us the end time, they've given us the elapsed time. We need to figure out what time was the start time. Okay, so we're going to just break this down. We start at 3:05, and I like to start to the left here. I'm going to move back on my timeline. So 3:05 a.m., I'm going to move back 1 hour. That gives me 2:05 a.m. still. Now what we need to do, we need to figure out the 28 minutes. Okay, 28 minutes before the 2:05 a.m. And a way to figure this out is we could subtract 28 minutes from 2:05. Okay, so we could set it up like this. 2:05 minus 28. Now this is a little trickier here than just regular subtraction. It's kind of like whenever we're converting our units of measurement, we need to think about how many minutes are in an hour and things like that, just like we would with how many feet are in a yard or inches in a feet and so on. Okay, so we cannot take 8 away from 5. We cannot so we're going to have to regroup. We cannot take anything away from 0, so we're going to change this 2 to a 1. Okay, and we're going to add 60 minutes. Okay, because we're going from an hour, we're converting that to minutes over here, so we're going to change that 60 to actually a 65. Okay, now 5 minus 8, we still cannot do that. We're going to take that 6, make that into a 5, make that 5 into a 15 now. 15 minus 8 is 7. 5 minus 2 is 3. Okay, we can just bring the 1 down. Okay, so 1:37. So we could say that if we had an end time of 3:05 a.m., the elapsed time was 1:28, 1 hour and 28 minutes. We could say now the start time was 1:37 a.m. Now we're going to move into the second part of the lesson. Now the second part of the lesson is dealing with adding units of time together. So we'll start with the one over here on the left. If we have 5 hours, 7 minutes, 18 seconds, and we add that to 3 hours, 4 minutes, and 15 seconds, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to think about our conversions. Remember, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour. Having that in our minds is really going to help us out. So we're going to add all the way to the right, just like we would normal addition. 18 plus 15. 8 and 5 gives me 13. Carry the 1. So we could say 18 plus 15 gives me 33 seconds. 7 plus 4 gives me 11 minutes. The only time I'd ever convert if I would have something that's 60 or greater for either seconds and minutes. And then finally 5 hours plus 3 hours is 8 hours. So there's not any regrouping that's going on with this first problem. Let's look at the second problem here. So we have 15 seconds plus 50 seconds. That's going to give me 60. Let me just erase this really quick. It's going to give me 65 seconds. So 65 seconds. Now, that is greater than a minute. So we're going to take 60 seconds from here. Okay? And what we will do is take that 60 seconds from there. 5 seconds are left over. And we're going to bring that over to our minutes. Okay? Now we have 1 and 1 is 2 plus 8, or plus 6 gives me 8 minutes now. We don't have to regroup or anything there. 8 hours plus 2 hours is 10 hours. So we could say that 8 hours, 1 minute 15 seconds, plus 2 hours, 6 minutes, 50 seconds, equals 10 hours, 8 minutes, and 5 seconds. Now we're going to take a look at one last problem. You can see now we're going to take a look at a subtraction problem. So we have 6 hours, 12 minutes, minus 1 hour, 15 minutes, and what we have to do, we're going to start out by taking 15 from 12, and you cannot do that, so you're going to have to regroup and change that 6 to a 5. We're going to add 60 minutes over to the 12. Gives us 72 minutes. Okay, now we can take 72 away from 15. Now we cannot take 5 away from 2. Have to regroup. 12 minus 5 is 7. 6 minus 1 is 5, so that's 57 minutes. And you can just do some simple subtraction. 5 hours minus 1 hour gives us 4 hours, 57 minutes.